So welcome to Coffee 101. My name's Dave. I work for Sage, obviously, and we're just trying to do a bit of a tuition about what great coffee's all about. So just a little bit of where coffee's at in the UK. Coffee's going crazy in the UK at the moment, and when I say coffee, that's good coffee, out-of-home, cafe-led coffee. So in the UK, daily, we drink 15 million cups of coffee a day in cafes. That's 1.7 billion cups of coffee per year. The industry is going absolutely crazy at the moment. And that's driven by 80% of us, 80% of us are visiting a coffee shop every single week. And it's actually 25% of us do that on a daily basis. So that's more than what America does actually when it comes to going to coffee shops, and we think they're addicted to the stuff, but the reality is we are even more addicted to going and drinking cafe-led coffee. A little bit on that industry in itself, I guess we can break that down into two types of coffee shops. We've got those typical branded coffee shops, the places like Costa and Starbucks and all of those guys, and then we've got the independent cafes, the guys that aren't in those chains. They're the guys that are doing all the really high quality stuff. So in the UK, there's around about 5,000 branded cafes and 11,000 independent cafes. So that's a ratio of 2 to 1. But the really interesting thing is that all the growth is coming from this independent sector. So they're the guys, those artisan coffee makers that we're starting to love so much. But I guess the question from my side is why are the indies growing so much? And to me, there's one answer to that question, and there's one answer only, is that they're the guys that are providing the quality in the cup. You're just getting a better tasting cup of coffee. And we saw this trend happen in Australia probably 10 years ago, where literally our taste buds moved from quite basic espresso-led coffees into, our taste buds just changed within a couple of year period into really quality stuff that's delivered by these independent, artisan, it's their craft to make incredible coffee. And guess what? In our industry, it's always those out-of-home trends that lead our in-home trends, okay? So it's juicing that went crazy in cafes, and all of a sudden juicing has gone, it's just exploded within our industry. This happened with blending and grilling and sandwich presses. It's just happened over and over again in our industry. And what we're seeing is this, real interest in manual coffee that's just going through the roof. We're doubling every year at the moment is what we're seeing. So the big question is, what delivers quality? There are three basic ingredients to a quality cup of coffee. And the first one is we have fantastic beans, and we'll talk more about those in a sec. We have a good machine. And the last one, if you're in a cafe, obviously, a fantastic barista. So they're the basic things that we need to have to deliver on a great cup of coffee, and we'll go through each one of those. So let's have a look at the beans first. So excuse my drawing. Here's a picture of a coffee bean. Now a coffee bean has around about somewhere between 800 to 1,000 different flavor compounds. Okay, and the thing about making great coffee is some of these compounds are fantastic. They taste amazing, and some of them taste crap, to be honest. So they're those burnt tastes. So making good coffee, making great coffee is as much about getting the good stuff out as it is not getting the bad stuff into the cup. And the way we do that is we extract our espresso at the appropriate pressure over the right amount of time. We use fresh coffee and we extract it at the right temperature. A very common misconception in our industry is what is the right pressure to extract our coffee at. Now, from the coffee industry's perspective, it's a simple number, and that is 9 bar. So all of our machines in our industry will range from having pumps from 15 bar to 19 bar. But the reality of your extraction, so where the coffee comes out of the machine, is that we're looking for a 9 bar extraction. And if we're getting that, we're going to get our extraction happening over around about 25 seconds. So that numbers can range 25 to 30 seconds. So when it comes to temperature, the number generally is 93 degrees. And we'll talk a lot about temperature in a second. So we can go a little bit higher or lower, but this is a very specific thing about temperature. What we're looking for is through our extraction is we're getting a consistent temperature, because we don't want to be fluctuating high and low, because we'll get different flavors in the cup, and we'll talk more about that. Now, freshness is incredibly important. Coffee is a fresh food, so a coffee bean has been roasted. And like all foods, it will change over time. So the secret to freshness, and freshness comes in two ways, is that we want to use our coffee beans from the 4th day of roast to around about the 20th day. And we can be a little bit either side. So that's from the day of roast. So when you buy your coffee, make sure you're looking for roasted on dates, not used by dates, because coffee won't kill you if it's 2 years old. It'll just taste terrible. So you'll see on a lot of supermarket bought coffee, it'll have used by dates. It'll be as far as 2 or 3 years out. But what's happening over that period, all those oils and those aromatics that have been leaving the coffee, and that's the stuff we want to actually get in the cup. They're those great flavors. So coffee will change over time. And the other thing is, once you've ground coffee, so I'll just quickly grind some coffee here. Once we move from whole coffee bean to ground coffee, what we've essentially done, we've opened up the inside of that coffee bean. So, and you notice when you grind coffee, it smells beautiful straight away. So the idea is, what we really want to be doing is extracting our coffee immediately once we grind it, because we want to get all those beautiful flavors and those oils in the cup. So we really want to be doing that extraction, under 30 seconds. And that's where we're getting all those beautiful flavors and those oils in the cup. Let's jump onto pressure. As I said before, we in our industry, we often talk about pump pressure. So we go 15 bar, 19 bar. It's absolutely not relevant really to the extraction at all, because the best taste is achieved when we're at 9 bar pressure. So let me show you, all of our machines have got 15 bar pumps. You'd expect that to be really, really strong. So I'm just going to jump onto this machine and show you what a 15 bar pump actually looks like. So the reality is the water is just dribbling out. So that's what 15 bar looks like. So, yeah, and the reason I've shown you that is because we don't actually achieve any pressure until we put some resistance in its way. And what I mean by resistance, it's about what the barista does in preparing their filter, okay? And that comes with 4 different things. So it's our freshness of our beans, it's our grind size, it's the volume of coffee that we use, and then our tamp. So essentially that's the job of a well-trained barista, is to get this right and get this consistent every single time. And when we build this resistance up, we will achieve our 9 bar pressure, and I'll show you a little bit about that. So those 4 key elements are the freshness of our coffee beans, as we said, between 4 and 20 days. It's our grind size, it's the volume, the sheer volume of coffee inside the filter. And last of all is our tamp. Now, one very cool thing that we've included in our machines is the razor tool. Now, this razor tool is to help us control our dosage. So after we've tamped, this is just a simple measurement tool to see if we've got the appropriate volume of coffee. Now, that's not too bad. So let's just pull an extraction and see how we go. So you hear that pre-infusion. Now the pump's at full pressure. So what we're seeing here, we're under pressure, and that's that fast pour we're trying to avoid. So as we've said, we need to then go with a finer grind. We need to give it more resistance, so we get to that 9 bar pressure zone where we get our best tastes. So again, that resistance is built up by how fresh the coffee is, the grind size of the coffee, the volume of the coffee, and the tamp. So now again, we've tried to create more resistance, so hopefully we're going to see a slower pour now. So we're seeing a richer, darker colour, a much slower pour, and we're getting into a high up in our espresso range. And doing that means we're getting the best flavours out of the coffee. We're seeing nice, rich caramel colours. So as we've seen, it's getting that resistance right that delivers the pressure. Now, in terms of what happens if we don't get it right. So if we have higher than 9 bar pressure or a really low extraction, what we're going to see is our coffee just dripping out. And what that will mean is we're above 9 bar pressure, and we're going to pull out these burnt, really bitter tastes. And then at the other side, if we're below 9 bar pressure, so we're going to see from our coffee filter the water just rush out really, or the coffee rush out very, very quickly. And what we see is, we end up with more of a drip coffee taste. So, we lose all our strength, and we lose all, we're not extracting those oils into the cup, and it's just a really insipid taste. And when we get it right at that 9 bar or that extraction over 25 seconds, we get a pour that, almost looks like warm honey is probably the best descriptor I've seen. So and that's where we're getting those nice, rich, thick oils and those best flavors in the cup. So that's why we're looking for that 25 second pour. Now, there's one other thing that's very important with pressure, and that's controlled by the machine. So with our machines and in the coffee industry, in a coffee shop, what we do is we start with low pressure, and you'll hear that when the pump's working. So what we're trying to do with that low pressure is basically just wet the whole coffee cake. So when we do give it the full pressure, we're getting a nice even extraction across the whole coffee cake, and that's where we're getting those oils out of all the coffee beans that we've got that we've ground into our filter. And next, let's jump on to temperature. As we said before, the industry standard is generally that we extract at 93 degrees Celsius. Now, some coffee shops will be 93.5, 94, 92, 92.5, and that's their choice in them getting their chosen taste out of the coffee beans or the coffee roast that they're using. But let's, assuming that 93 is our industry standard, what we see that if we go hotter than 93 degrees, if we get up to 95, 96 degrees or plus, what we're doing is that's where we're pulling out what we call those burnt and bitter tastes. And it's, a lot of us really don't like that about coffee. And then at the other end, if we're below that 93 degrees, if you're up around 90 or less, it's where what the industry will say you're pulling out those sour tastes of coffee. So it's really important that we're hitting that 93 degrees. Now, the important thing about temperature, as I said before, is that if this is our extraction over time of our 25 seconds, is whatever we're choosing as the temperature, the idea is we want to achieve a flat line of temperature through the entire extraction. Because if we don't, the last thing we want to be doing is going between 95 and 89 or whatever it might be, because all we're essentially doing is pulling out bitter flavors, sour flavors, bitter flavors, sour flavors, and getting that as an average isn't getting, again, the best out of the coffee. So we want to get 93 degrees across the whole extraction. And the other place the temperature is so important is around our milk texturing, because if we go above 65 degrees, it's where we lose that natural sweetness in milk. And in terms of our demonstrations, we always suggest to go to 55 degrees, because if we're demoing into a paper cup, we don't lose that heat that we do if we're using a ceramic cup. And it's to the point where on the Oracle, we've added this little, this cool little smiley face that we've got a smiley face you can see here that is only there smiling as we're moving between 55 and 65 degrees. And if we go any hotter, we lose that smiley face. Again, that's our indicator that we're in that right zone to deliver the best tasting coffee. Now let's just run through our most common questions. First of all, cleaning. There's 3 important elements to cleaning. Now, each of these machines will prompt you when to clean, and the Joule Boiler and the Oracle will even prompt you when to descale. Now, the first thing with cleaning, we provide cleaning tablets in the pack. Now, these cleaning tablets, their job is to clean the coffee oils out of the group head area. They don't descale the machine. That's a different process. Descaling is cleaning all of those water paths throughout the machine. And we know in the UK, we have hard water, and it's something we need to do quite regularly. I would recommend we do it every time we're prompted to clean the machine. So essentially what the descale solution does, that goes into our water tank, and there's different processes, but refer to your instruction books on how to do it on each machine. But essentially what we're doing is running that solution through all of the water paths in the machine. That's the steam wand, the hot water section, and also the group head area. And last of all, we have our filter, and that sits in our water tank, and that's responsible for removing sort of any particles out of the water before they get into the machine. So I would recommend that we do our 3 jobs at the same time. That's use our tablets to clean the coffee oils from the group head, to descale all the water paths in the machine, and change our filter. Now, all of these elements are available on our website, easy to get. When the machine prompts you to clean, I would do all 3. Now, if you get any blockages or anything throughout the machine, just go straight to a descale. As we said, water is so hard in the UK, and it can easily clog up some section of your machine. And the first thing to do is to descale. And if you have any issues, please call us straight away. The next common question is, where do I buy my beans? Now, as we said before, freshness is so important when it comes to coffee beans. but at the end of the day, it's what you like the taste of. So I guess our advice is to go to the cafe where you like their coffee the best. So you obviously like their flavour of coffee, so you like their coffee beans, and then it comes down to you getting the best out of those in the methods we've just talked about. But again, look for roasted on dates and use them between 4 and 20 days. We also get asked a lot about storage of coffee beans. A lot of people will store coffee beans in the freezer. That's a big no-no, and the reason that's a big no-no is because when you pull them out of the freezer, the water condenses on the outside of the coffee beans, and that's not good for making coffee. So store your coffee in a cool, dry, airtight container. And really what you should be doing is buying small bags of coffee often so they stay fresh, so you only use what you need in that sort of freshness 4 day 20 zone. Next, the differences between our machines. Let me just step you through those. We'll again look at the machines. So we'll start at the Barista Express. So the big thing here is that it's an espresso machine with the grinder built in, adjustable grind size and adjustable dose. That's as simple as using as pushing the handle in. So as we said, that grinder is on a timer. So once we've got our machine tuned in, we're going to get the same amount of coffee every time. And then, because this is a single heat source in this machine, we have to move from extraction and then into steam. It's around about a 10-15 second heat up in between. The cool thing about this machine, because steam happens obviously very hot and we want our extraction at 93 degrees, once we've done our steam, the machine cools itself down so the next cup of coffee is made at the right temperature. So again, built-in grinder, which is a dosing grinder, single heat source where we have to go from our extraction and then onto steam. We've got another machine that sits below this, and that's the Duotemp. It essentially has all the internals of this machine, the same heat source, the same pressure controls, just without the grinder, and it's complete manual control. So as we move up the range, this is our dual boiler and the Oracle. Now the beautiful thing about these machines is they are dual boiler machines, and what that means is we have separate heating mechanisms, separate boilers for both the extraction and also for our steam. So, and that means two very important things. It means we can do our extraction and texture our milk at the same time. And so we're capturing those great flavors in the cup because the espresso shot is not waiting there for us to texture the milk. And the most important thing about the boiler system is that it's the way to achieve that flat line of temperature through the entire shot, and it means we're getting the best taste out of our dual boiler models. Now the dual boiler itself, as you can see, it doesn't come with a grinder, so you'll need a separate grinder. This is the kit for that person that really wants to tweak and play, really enjoys the art of making coffee. They're the barista themselves. And the last machine we got here is the Oracle. Now this is amazing. So as we said at the start, great coffee comes from three things, and that's great coffee beans, great machine, and a great barista. But the Oracle itself takes away the need to have a barista because it automates all those tricky things, the things that the barista's learnt 2 years to do. Let me show how it works. So first of all, you'll see on the side we've got a built-in grinder, but it's not just any built-in grinder. Essentially with a flick of the switch it will start grinding, but it's actually going to tamp for us. I'll just show you. So it's gone through a process, as we said, of grinding, tamping, and dosing perfectly for us, and we haven't had to do anything apart from move the handle. This is incredible. No other domestic machine does this, and it's it took a long time for us to design this, but it means we're getting incredible consistency in every single cup. And the other thing that most consumers get really nervous about is their milk texturing. So the great thing about this machine, again, as we saw before, you get to choose your temperature of your milk, what we have here is a little temperature probe or a thermistor sitting at the bottom, so it will turn itself off when it achieves that temperature. But not only that, is we can choose our texture level between latte and cappuccino. So we'll just move that up towards the cappuccino. I'll give you a quick demonstration how this works. And remembering, this is a dual boiler system, so we can do everything at once. So We put the handle in where the machine's done all the tamping and dosing and all that for us. And it's as simple as flicking the switch down for the milk, pressing for our extraction, put our hands in our pockets and let the machine do all the work that the barista normally has to do. So we got that nice pour again, that slow sort of warm honey type effect, getting all the nice, those best cremas and those best flavours out of the coffee. And we can see the milk is heating up, and we're getting an indication of how hot that milk is. The texture's building, it's nice and creamy, it's beautiful, and it will turn itself off when we get to our preset temperature. As I said, this is the machine that kind of has the barista inside, so really we just sit back and let the machine do all the work. So it's turned itself off. It'll even clean itself after I put the milk one down. Just a quick clean of the outside of that, so we're good to go for the next cup. And then we've got really nice creamy milk that I haven't had to do anything for apart from flick a lever. And it's just as simple as over time learning my latte art. Simple as that. So the Oracle, the machine for people who want amazing coffee but don't want to go through the effort of making it. So the next thing, where to go for help. To me, if you want help with how to make coffee, go straight to YouTube. We've got loads of YouTube clips on our website and there's stuff all over the internet. But if you've got any issues at all with making coffee, or you think your coffee machine's got any issues at all, please call us. Our phone number is on the water tank or on the bottom of every single machine. Call us and we'll help you straight away. Now the next one is milk. How do I get the best milk? We all want to do amazing latte art, but I'm not going to show you how to do that, but I'm going to show you how to texture some really nice milk. Now what's great milk? I think it's best described as microfoam. So what we're looking for is tiny bubbles through all of the milk basically. So we get this really creamy consistency when we drink our coffee, almost from top to bottom. In the old days we used to have big bubbles and we used to spoon them on top, and that's just kind of not done anymore. So what we're trying to do, the best thing to get that result, what I'll do, and I'll demo in a sec, I'm going to fill this milk jug up to halfway. Now halfway is indicated by the bottom of the spout. That gives us enough milk to work with to get a great result. And then what I'll be doing is a few different things. And what I like to do is I like to angle the milk jug towards me. It gives me a chance for me to see inside the milk jug really easily. I'm going to have the steam tip at 3 o'clock, so it's on the side. So I'm going to say 3 o'clock, so it's 12, 3, 6, 9. So the steam tip on the side, because what I'm trying to do is get my milk swirling. And the reason we do that, any bubbles we form, we want to actually sort of disappear, and that's what that swirling does. And then on the on the dual boiler, because we don't have the temperature probe here, I have my hand on the base of the jug, and that's my temperature probe. When it's too hot to touch, that's the temperature that will stop texturing. Now, the other thing we always talk about is that we should use our ears a lot when we're texturing milk. If we've got our steam tip in too low, you'll hear this screaming sound. If it's up too high, we'll just obviously have lots and lots of bubbles. But what we're trying to do is have the steam tip just out of the milk. So it's a process of pushing steam into the milk. And it's just, you'll hear this kind of hiss sound, and if we're doing that, we're going to end up with nice milk. So let me just demonstrate that for you. Fill that milk up to around halfway, as we indicated by the bottom of that spout. It's always nice to give our steam on a quick purge. Again, I'm leaning towards me, and I've got the steam tip just out of the milk at 3 o'clock on the side, again, to get that swirling going. So here goes. So we're hearing that, we're looking for that hissing sound. You can see the milk swirling quite aggressively. So again, any bubbles that we're forming, we're getting rid of. And you'll see that what we're doing now is we're actually increasing the volume of the milk. That means that we're pushing texture into the milk. So the milk will actually grow as we go. Got my hand on the base, feeling the temperature. And we're getting there. Quick purge of that steam wand and a quick clean for that next shot. But as you'll see, we've got nice glistening, we've got no visible bubbles on the top. And wet paint, as we said, I think is a great descriptor. The reason I'm keeping that moving is I don't want it to separate before I pour it. Now again, I'm not a barista, so excuse me for not presenting the best latte art. But we'll pour straight into the top. And the reality of good milk is if we can get a white, anything that's white on the top, that means we've got this beautiful balance between well-textured milk and a great shot of espresso. So there you go. So remember, lean it towards you, steam tip at 3 o'clock, listen for that hissing sound, keep the milk swirling, temperature probe is our hand on the bottom, and it's just practice from there. And look for our white dob on the top. That's the first thing we should be trying to achieve. So I hope that's helped, and you've learned a little bit more about coffee. Now, if you have any issues, any customers got any questions, please just call us and we'll help you through them. Now, as I said before, our phone number's on the water tank of every machine, it's on the base of every machine, but all I'll say now is try and get your hands dirty, get into making coffee, try it, fall in love with it. It's a great category, and it's a category that's going to be growing for a long time. So, coffee on.